Blessings, everybody. This is Dale. Thank you so much for joining with me today on the Word Podcast. We continue our examination of the 73rd Psalm. The psalmist has been talking about the wicked, and his response to it, and how he's sort of bummed out because he looks at the wicked and how they seem to prosper, and how they're fat, and how they even seem to die well. And we see this in conjunction with what we saw also in Psalm 37. Well, in our last episode, the last couple of verses we read gave us some insight to something. So let's go there again. It's in the 16th verse of Psalm 73 that says, "When I pondered to understand this, it was troublesome in my sight." So he's talking about when he was pondering to understand the nature of the wicked and why things like this happen and what's occurring and what's going on. And he said, it was troublesome in my sight. Then verse 17, until I came into the sanctuary of God. Then I perceived their end. Well, there's such a truth here for us, though. Just think about this. He said, I was really troubled by all this kind of stuff. I was trying to figure this out until I came into the sanctuaries of God, until I came into the presence of God, until I came before the Most High God. It was then when he came before the Lord that he perceived their end. It was then when he came before the Lord that he began to understand what is going to occur, what's going to happen, that God was not blind to the situation and the circumstance, that the Lord knows exactly what's going on. It was then that he began to understand that he was being distracted. The psalmist was being distracted by things. And do we not do the same thing? We'll sit there and rather than focusing upon that which is important, we'll sit there and say, well, God, why aren't you taking care of this? God, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? You see the same type of thing at the end of the book of John when Jesus is walking along with Peter, sort of alone on the beach, but John's dragging behind him. And Jesus is telling Peter what's going to be happening in his life. And Peter's just sitting there looking at the Lord, and he goes, well, what about him? What about John? That kind of thing. We as humans have such a tendency to do that. But when we really come in before the Lord, the sanctuary, the presence of God, when we live there, we will perceive things as the Lord does, as he deigns to reveal to each one of us. Well, what was revealed? Well, let's just, the next three verses give us a little insight. Then we'll continue on the next episode. So verse 17 again. 16. When I pondered to understand this, it was troublesome in my sight until I came into the sanctuary of God. Then I perceived their end. Surely you, and this is the psalmist speaking to God, that's capitalized, surely you set them in slippery places. You cast them down to destruction. Really, literally mean you cast them down to ruins. How they are destroyed in a moment. They are utterly swept away by sudden terrors. Like a dream when one awakes, O Lord, when aroused, you will despise their form or their image. The psalmist realized now, wait a minute, they will be judged. They will be brought down. Perhaps in this life, but if not in this life, in the ultimate day of judgment, they're going to be brought down to destruction. They're going to be brought down to ruin. They're going to be destroyed or brought to desolation in a moment of time. They're going to be utterly swept away by sudden terrors. God is going to do this. He's going to take care of them. Sometimes you see it with an unbeliever, someone who's just a pagan, who's rejected the Lord in every way. At the moment that they're dying, was it Rousseau, I think, that went through this? That people say he just screamed and hollered for, I think it was days on end, because he saw what his destiny was and he refused to repent. Okay? That is what's going to happen. Those who are wicked will be judged. They will be brought to an end. Remember what the psalmist said in verse 17? Then I perceived their end. There's going to be an end. And that end is going to be desolation. It's going to be destruction. The Lord has set them on these slippery places. You reject the Lord, he's going to say, okay, he's going to give you enough rope to hang yourself, basically. You see it in Romans 1. God gave them over, God gave them over, God gave them over. And so he's going to do this. So don't be distracted by evil. doers and what they do. Keep your eyes, keep your focus, keep your attention upon the Most High God. Well, again, I'm Dale. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.